I guess I'll sort of.
Here you go.
Thank you.
You got the power.
I'll take this little situation. Okay, so welcome to Lost in the Woods. This is our kind of first time coming together to do a program like this in a couple of years. And one of the things we have kind of noticed as we've talked with parents throughout the building and talked with parents as they were entering into the Woods program is that people were kind of lost as to what was going on. They didn't know what to expect. People were sort of unsure as to what happened in traditional public schools versus our public charter school. And so we wanted to create kind of an open forum where the teens were kind of the center of it and able to talk to you a little bit about their experience. And we were able to kind of clarify questions as you guys entered into this process of kids in high school, if you will. So in your hands, hopefully, and our teams will help you out if not the case, you should have a packet that starts with the journey of a Woods learner and an index card. So your packet is kind of your free gift with purchase of the evening that you get to walk away with. And it's all the information that we're going to tell you in an hour kind of written so you can look at it again. It also gives you a surface to jot some notes down if you need to, whatever you feel like is going to give you the most from this evening. The other thing you have in hand is an index card and a pen. And so we're actually going to start with an activity that we would actually use in some of our classes. So on your index card, I'd like you to answer 2 questions. The first question is, what do you think should be a part of a high school experience for a teen? And the second question would be, what do you think is part of the Community Montessori high school experience? And if it's the same answer, then you can just answer it once. But if it's different, then write down 2 different answers. This is not a test. It's just it's very low pressure.
There's not a wrong kind of
No.
question. They're all fine.
What we're doing is kind of gaining context for what you want to know, and we're hoping that we touch on all of that throughout the evening. And if we don't touch on that in our conversation, we'll make sure we cover it. Are you guys ready for a task? Great. You're like, oh, we're afraid. Yes. Yes. So as you wrap up writing the answer to your questions, the teens are going to come around and collect your index cards from you. So if you have it, wave it, and they're coming. They're yes. What Jeopardy music was that?
That's not like remix. Right?
Oh, I love it. Yes.
It's more like elevator music, you know.
And mix them up, guys. And then trade with each other.
Trade for each other.
Yeah, mix with each other. We're gonna. One person needs them, or a couple people, because you're gonna hand them back out here in a second. Yes. All right. Do we have everybody's index card? No. Okay. All good.
I'll screen out for the whole group.
So sorry. Is your knee ceasing up?
Like that.
You just want to be like,
Okay. All right. Teens, shuffle this up, and then you're going to hand them back out to the people in which you took their index cards.
different people.
Different people, yes. Hopefully they're different. All right, so this is an activity we typically start lessons with because sometimes teens are a little bit shy to participate in the group and talking out loud. And so it kind of takes the pressure off of asking their own question. So now we're gonna go around the room and have you ask the questions or answer the questions on your index card, so sorry. And hopefully we will touch base on those at some point. Would you like to start? Yes, yeah.
Engaging in the community outside of CMS.
Okay. Go ahead.
The way I'm reading this, learning how to be curious versus learning how to ask excellent questions.
Okay. Just a packet, guys. And some pens. Pens would be good. Sorry, go ahead.
Life skills, money management, household skills, where to go or call when things happen.
Things happen. Do you have one?
I'm assuming the first one was public high school, so it's lots of homework. And then the second one was to me, Montessori, real life experiences, problem solving, conflict resolution, and debate.
Okay.
Okay, high school experience, friends, clubs, extracurricular activities, and then the senior experience, friends, basically the same but less skills.
Okay. Okay.
This one talks about high school experiences, education versus the Montessori experiences, supportive education.
Okay.
This one says adult skills and life skills, and that would be the expectation for both.
Okay. Yeah.
Sports and certain classes often.
Okay.
Says how in quotes
Yes.
to learn to be a lifelong learner.
Okay. So that gives us some basics to start with, and I think you took down some notes of things that we, in case we don't cover them, to come back around to. All right, so next we're going to actually tell you who we are. I'm going to actually start with having the teens introduce themselves, and then we'll get over to the adults. So who you are, what studio you are, what level you are.
Okay. I'm Ethan. I'm in Sycamore, and I'm a junior.
How long have you been here?
Ooh, let me see. 13 years, I think. 13 or 14.
My name is Matthew. I'm in Cyprus. I'm a senior this year, and I've been here, this is my 9th year.
I'm Mia. Don't laugh at me. I'm not laughing. I'm Mia. I'm in Sequoia, and I'm a 12th year, and this is my 3rd year here.
I'm Annalise. I'm a senior in Sycamore, and this is my 13th year.
My name's Emma. I'm in Sequoia. I started here freshman year, and I'm now junior, so about 3 years. Yeah.
I am Danielle. I am the Teen Studio Support Coordinator, and you can find me in the Creativity Studio, helping to support the Teens program in various ways.
I'm Barbara Fondren, Director of Community Montessori. Glad to be here with all of you.
Facilitator.
Hi, I'm Hannigan Roseberry, and I'm the Courage Coordinator, which is a lovely, delightful title that I'm very proud to have. But it means I do a lot of various things, and I'm part of the Teen Transition Team along with Danielle and Caitlin. And I also do the theater program, one of our extracurricular activities at this level. And I've been at the school for 10 years, and I'm also a parent at the school, and my kids have been here for 10 years. So I've now got 2 in the woods, 1 in 9 to 12, but they've traveled through all of the levels, and it's been really interesting to observe that and support that process as a parent as well as a staff member.
My name is Kyle. I'm an advisor in Sequoia Studio. This is my 15th year. I'm also a coach for our staff at the teens level.
Caitlin, would you like to come out from behind? Yeah.
I'm Caitlin. I'm the Teen Transition Coordinator, and I help our learners with life after high school, helping them plan for college, their careers, and for dual credits while they're here.
So up here you can kind of see a picture of our staff. There's a wide variety of us with a lot of different talents. And we have really kind of figured out how to collaborate with one another and come up with big ideas and actually make big ideas happen. So I'm quite thankful to work with these humans here. So just a kind of context for who we are as an adult team in this situation called high school. All right, I'm going to pass it on to you all for a little history.
Want me to start?
Yeah, please. Okay.
I'll take the first 25 minutes.
Okay.
Kyle and I are big talkers, so this is going to be cute. We're supposed to be quick. So I just want to start with saying, you know, when I started the school in 1998, and one of the first things I said to the board was we were going to add an age level every year through high school. At that time in 1998, I think there were 2 Montessori high schools in the whole nation. And so there weren't a lot of people to pull from that information, but you know, one of the things, I went to a lot of conferences, I met a lot of people, I visited a lot of schools, probably 100 schools in the first 5 years of the school, and started to see, not many high schools, but started to see what best practices were in the valorization, and Kyle will talk a minute about that, and about how to help to make sure that the teen feels empowered through high school and not something is done to them, but done with them or that they're leading. And so even when Kyle began, you know, that was the year that we kind of flipped the switch. Okay, it's now time to plan our high school after we've done a lot of research. And actually Kyle and a group of us went up to Indianapolis to see what's called Met School. What did that stand for, Kyle? Big Picture Company School. And so when Danielle talked about big goals, is that the word? Big ideas and all that. That was kind of where we started, you know, like if we can make a high school look like anything we wanted, what would it look like? What would be the best? And we talked a lot to the teens we had then, which is mostly 13 and 14-year-olds, and said, what would you want it to look like? And so everything started on that process. And what's neat is that I can't tell you how many changes because we're small. We get to go with the flow. When the state changed all the rules, we could change immediately. So,
Yeah.
Well done. Yes.
I'll do my best. When I graduated college in 2005, I really didn't know what I was going to do with my degree. It's a long story to explain how I ended up serendipitously coming to visit and do a tour of the school. But I will tell you, one of the first experiences I had was going into an adolescent classroom. Now again, I was not trained as a teacher. My degree's in English and philosophy and history. But one of the things that happened was I sat down in this chair and I was talking to this teen who was working, reading. I don't remember exactly what they were doing at this moment because that wasn't the key experience for me. The key experience was a teen came up, walked right up to me and said, "You're in my seat." And I just thought, this is so great. How empowered is this teen, you know? I just thought that was a wonderful thing. And it wasn't the defining experience that made up my mind. It was that whole experience of walking into a room. I'd never seen anything like it before. And so I was quickly enamored, even though I knew nothing of teaching and nothing of Montessori. The teens themselves revealed to me that this was a really important place and something really special was happening here, and I wanted to be a part of it. So we started really small. That first group of teens, Barbara and I figured out the oldest teens were 13. I guess the youngest were like 11, 12, and 13. There was probably a group of maybe 30 of them. We had 2 teachers. And slowly, every year, we built one classroom at a time. And we didn't want to go too quickly because we didn't want to lose our identity. We didn't want to, grow a program that lost its identity and lost its culture. And so we took it really gradually in careful stages. And every year, as the program grew and evolved, so did we. And we continue to evolve and try to figure out how do we best serve the teen. And, Mia is pretty fond of reminding me that I am her, I serve her. The other day she told me, "You're my advisor, you serve me." And, we had a good laugh, but the reality is it's true. And you can find Montessori writings that are very, very explicit about this. Mia might not have known she was such a Montessori scholar, but the truth is Montessori writes very candidly about this. The adult is the servant of the child, and we are here in service to them. And so that's what really defines our program. That's what really captivated me from the very beginning, and it's what I continue to aspire to do in my role in this program.
Claps for all. So I think Kyle brings up an excellent point in that when we are looking at these big ideas and figuring out how we want to, or what we want to do in the next steps of the high school, we have to always look back at Maria Montessori and the direction she has pointed us in. So one of the things she points out is that we're entering in this complex modern world. And it's only getting more complex as we have new technologies, as we have new career paths that we didn't have when we were growing up, and really preparing teens for career paths that don't even exist yet. She writes, this involves the spiritual development of humans, the enhancement of their value as individuals, and the preparation of young people to understand the times in which we live. So our whole curriculum, our hope is that it builds context for the world we live in, the history of humanity, the history of the cosmos, and so on. Yes, please. And then I'll let you continue.
Cosmos is the
Please elaborate, and you can continue on to this if you
Well, if
Kyle's nickname.
yeah, what is the yeah. Yeah, and Emma intentionally put glitter all over the carpet today. Okay, anyway, go back to the last slide, if you would. So this is a really, in my view, the essential point that separates Montessori education from the traditional model. And it is that we are not training young people for careers. We can help them in that regard, and we do, but that is not the ultimate aim. The ultimate aim, she wrote about a new human. Actually, she said a new man, but that's sort of antiquated language, so I like to say new human. And it's a reinvention of the human at the species level, where we shift into a new modality of consciousness, a new modality of being, where we recognize that we are not separate nations. We are one unified species on one single planet that is interconnected and interdependent. And we have to cultivate that mentality for every young person in order to enter into a new relationship with each other and with the planet, into a sustainable future, into a peaceful future. Sometimes you'll hear people talk about peace education. That's what this means, creating a new world that has different dynamics, different characteristics, different properties as a result of the new human that gets born through a different kind of education. Now, this is a colossal undertaking. It cannot happen in one generation, 2 generations. Paradigm shifts are very, very slow. They move at tectonic pace, right? So you can't even see it. It's so slow. It's painfully slow, especially when the crisis becomes all the more urgent. We do have superhuman powers. We do control most of the biosphere. We do control the fate of this planet. And we've been doing that in a kind of unconscious way. And what Montessori education hopes to do is bring into consciousness how we can channel our superhuman powers into a productive and a constructive mode of being for all future generations. Sure. So this hinges on this idea. This is from childhood to adolescence. It's the only single book that Montessori ever wrote about adolescence, and it's just really, unfortunately, very, very small.
It's very thin, but very thick.
Yeah, it's dense.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of extrapolation in Montessori education at the adolescent level because she didn't leave us a lot to go on. But one of the things that she said was adaptability is the most essential quality for the adolescent to cultivate. This is remarkable. She was so prescient. She recognized even in 1930, 1940, that the future was going to be rapidly changing. So we could not just train young people to go into the same kinds of professions that people could rely on for generations. It wasn't going to be that way. She recognized the world is rapidly changing. So rather than we need to educate adolescents to know these standards and these very particular kinds of content, and academic curricula, no, it's a character trait that they need more than anything. It's the capacity to be adaptable, to be flexible, to have a durable spirit, a durable psyche that can sustain, unpredictable challenges and meet those challenges with creative solutions. And now the bigger question is, how do you do that? And I think the answer, not to be oversimplistic, it's not letting the curriculum dictate what we teach, how we teach it, why we teach it, when we teach it, but instead to try to individualize education as much as possible, to show the interconnections among all the disciplines, to help young people appreciate the fact that every discipline has something to offer. It all adds up to a complex, multifaceted, multidimensional awareness of how to be a complex problem solver, and not to just become sort of trained in one narrow way of being, but instead to recognize we can meet any challenge that the future brings to us if we can pull from all these various disciplines and ways of thinking and experiences. So one of our trainers, Paul Epstein, is really fond of saying, we live in an ever-changing future. We now live in a world, there's no way that we can predict what the world of these adolescents is going to be, really. We think we can because, after all, they're so quickly going to emerge into this world, but it's rapidly changing with the pace of technology changing, the new complex problems that are arising in our world as a result of our reliance on fossil fuels and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, we don't know what the future is going to be, so we can't train them with any degree of certainty for a very fixed, stagnant future. Instead, they need to be able to adapt to an ever-changing future. Take it away.
Oh,
Take it
yeah.
away.
Well, just chiming in quickly. I keep treating this like it's a microphone for you all, and it's not. It's for the camera. So I'm like, why am I not resonating? Okay. But I teach, right now this semester, I'm teaching Preparing for College and Careers, which Indiana says all students, whether you're in a public charter school or a traditional school, everyone has to take it. And so it has all of these standards that say all of the things you need to learn to be ready for college and careers. And so we cover those, but that's a fraction of what we're doing in there. But this adaptability component, another way you can look at it is if you've heard the phrase soft skills. We heard that when you're talking about the employability component. So 21st century employers, they're looking for and they're struggling to find young people that can be self-starters, they can self-regulate, they're not just waiting to be told what to do, they're not waiting for a bell to ring to tell them where to go next, they're not waiting for a list that they can check off. And that's what 21st century employers are struggling with. That's the skills gap they're identifying. And so there have been some shifts in the Department of Education in Indiana and throughout the country as the DOEs, they pivot to try to adapt to, okay, what are the job markets seeing? Where are the skills gaps? How can we work towards identifying those? And so there's been this move to focus a bit more on developing those soft skills. And when this happened, last year was a big shift towards that. We went, oh, great, we've been doing that the whole time. So go figure. Maria Montessori, she nailed that, and it only took the departments of ed, 80, 90 years to get there, where she already was, which is we're not going to teach just facts. We're not going to have you memorize things, and we know more and more now. We all carry, for the most part, computers in our pockets, essentially. So memorizing and regurgitating facts is not a particularly useful or novel skill anymore. And so in preparing for college and careers right now, we just had this conversation last week about, well, we're going to investigate careers. We're going to look up information. We're going to learn salaries, all these things that the state says are the important standards to look up. I said, that's all great and fine, but if you don't know how to regulate your time, if you don't have a toolkit for navigating when life gets super messy, it doesn't really matter how many facts you know if you can't do these other components. And so that adaptability piece, as Kyle said, is front and center and at the heart of really all of it. It's about developing a toolkit for how do I respond to the messiness of being a human, and how do I contribute in a way that's profound and compassionate and interconnected with everyone around you. And it's amazing to watch how these folks do this. And so I'm eager to hand it over to you all because we get to watch how this plays out with each of you and all of your counterparts in a very unique way that's humbling to behold as the adults in the building. So I'll pass it on. Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We do all these things too, and they're very exciting. Okay. So, but yeah. We do make the things work together, and so we work a lot as a teen staff to make things function in an interconnected way, meaning just the curriculum stuff. We don't learn English in isolation, math in isolation, singing or art or computers in isolation. We work really hard to have all of those things work together in a cohesive way. If I dare say big history, we're going off the rails, aren't we? But we work to make all of the arenas work together to tell the story of human life. And that can be best summed up in a curriculum called the Big History Curriculum. I feel like I'm not even allowed to talk about it, I know. But that's maybe a workshop for another day. But we weave the social emotional learning, so the foundations for character, the morality things, the how do I respond to hard things, how do I help when help is needed. We put that right in there next to the math and next to the reading and the writing, and all of it works together in a cohesive way. Do we need to go any more into that? Can we keep going? Right. Right. Well, yeah, and then we'll hand it on over. But as a parent, as I said, I've got 3 kids here, ages 11, how old are they? 11, 14, and 16. And so we added this slide in because I hear a lot, knowing parents from different ages in the building and such, and just hearing, staff members of the studios at the elementary side of the building. We realized before we get into all these, philosophical things, we want to make sure some of the really basic things are clear. Like, do we know what kind of diploma tracks are here? Do we know that the learners have transcripts and GPAs, and they go to colleges, and they take PSATs and SATs, and they change classes and have different teachers. And so we realized that a lot of those things we assume people know, and then it's become clear that that's not necessarily the case. And so we decided to make a list of these are the things here on the left that are similar to our traditional counterparts. They go to prom, they do some of those traditional cherished activities perhaps that some of us might remember from back in the day. They also have all of the diploma opportunities that their traditional counterparts have as well, and we had to figure out how to capture the unique experiences that they have here on a transcript, because we have to figure out how to translate what they do out to the world outside of here, and that correlates their assessments with GPAs and such, so they're able to compete, if you will. We don't use that word very often here, but the reality is we need to make sure that we can tell their story to the outside world when they're transitioning out, and that's one of the ways that we do that, and that really sets them apart. When there's the huge pool of applicants out there, their transcript begs a lot of really interesting questions and has served them really well in terms of starting conversations and helping them to stand out in a crowd. But we also have all of these other things beyond the requirements that the state asks. So I might pass it. I'll stop rambling now. But as a parent, it's really incredible to watch how it's playing out with my 3 very different young people. And I'll pass it along.
Yes.
I thought I was going to not talk, so.
It's all good.
I tried to. Because they're fantastic. But, as Hathaway was saying that, and sometimes people will say, well, but what kind of teen do you want to have come out of your school? And we never look at it that way. We always say, who is that child and where are they going, where are their interests, and how do we let them come out in their own way and what that looks like. And so both of my daughters who graduated from here, my oldest, who's very analytical, always did well on SAT, ACT, all that was very easy for her. had ideas about what she wanted to do. This is where she was going to go. Got into her college, got a merit scholarship. All of that just came automatic. She worked hard, but it wasn't a struggle for her. My youngest, a dreamer, was always trying to figure out what changes she wanted to make in the world. And then she decided, I want to find the college that fits me. And so she applied to a lot of different colleges and got a full ride scholarship to a liberal arts college on the East Coast. And then she was like, I've always been to a small school. I want to go to a big school. She also applied to IU. IU didn't accept her. Her ACT and SAT scores weren't as strong. She studied really hard, still weren't as strong. And so she's like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And she goes, I want to go to IU. And I want them to give me a scholarship because they don't even see me for all these other things I've done. I've interned at all these amazing places. I'm a leader. I've been in leadership conferences. I've led conferences. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do about it? She goes, who can I tell? And I'm like, well, they have a board of trustees. She goes, they do? She goes, who are they? So anyway, she wrote a letter and said, I want you to accept me and I want you to give me a scholarship. And they wrote back and said, okay. And it was the most empowering situation for her that she's ever been in. And what we want to do is to try to help them to do whatever, if that is going to a local community college, if that is going right to work, whatever that thing is, we want to help them to be the best at it that they can be. And as you walk through this today, think about all the individualization that happens at the school as well.
Speaking of individualization, are you guys ready? Wonderful. So I'm wondering if you guys could just start off with sharing with everyone what a typical day in your life at Community Montessori might look like. Yes. Okay. You can start and then just pass it along to your next.
So, like I said, I'm Emma. My days are typically very kind of hectic. I am, along with being in a lot of dual credit classes, and this upcoming semester, I'm going to be, or this last half of this semester, I'm going to actually be traveling to Ivy Tech every Monday, Wednesday morning, so that's pretty much taking up my whole morning. But a lot of us have dual credits. Some of us leave for those, some of us are, they're available here. But I'm in many different school groups. So I'm in theater, I'm also in a group called Assist. And we meet every week and we plan different activities for the school, a lot of community building things. But I have my studio, and a lot of traditional schools would call this homeroom. And every week I have a meeting with my advisor, which is Kyle. We like to play pranks on each other, just letting you know. But then I will have my homeroom for a little while, and that time I can spend working on group projects out in our commons, or I can just go to different spaces and work on different things. And then I have specific times for my classes. Typically my classes are Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, kind of like a college. And then on Friday, I go to instead of coming to school, I go to my internship. And most of us, once you hit junior year, some people that are 10th levels do it, but we start going into internships. So basically it's kind of like looking for a job. We call or email, and we basically contact businesses that we think would have something that we can get from fundamentally. So whether it is working with different types of people, communication, whether it's teaching, whatever you want to do, trying to find something that adds value to your skills already or teaches you new ones. So we really work hard to find ones that are beneficial for us and what we need to learn, and we typically get a lot out of them, and they're amazing. They're always the one thing that we're like, I want to look for my internship, because we know that the last one, they just kind of keep getting better and better because you always learn something new from them. So being able to do that. But anyway, my days specifically, depending on how you set up your schedule, mine are pretty busy. Some people choose to have more work time in their studio. I, however, like to put a lot on my plate. It's just me. Okay.
So I'm Annalise. Honestly, I don't have a whole lot to say because I'm a senior and I did a whole lot of work my freshman and sophomore year. So I only have one class this semester. I only had one class last semester. I'm taking quantitative reasoning right now at Ivy Tech. That's only on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, and then on Monday and Wednesday afternoons I go to theater, and on Fridays I intern with a person named Jessica. She's actually Em's mom at our school, and she is teaching me how to sew. So I'm doing costuming for our spring production. I'm also assistant directing it. I'm also acting in it. So that takes up a whole lot of my time. But honestly, I just do homework at my homeroom, if you would call it. I'm in Sycamore, and I read a lot. That's about it. I don't do a whole lot right at this moment. Earlier this year, I did apply to a lot of colleges. I'm applying to scholarships. I'm doing all that kind of stuff. I've already been accepted, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, that's about it. Oh, I've been accepted into Ball State. I'm going to be majoring in oh my gosh, I can't speak today. I'm going to be majoring in directing, specifically with a theater focus, and minoring in costuming, because if you can get one job in theater, you can get all the jobs in theater, so. Oh yeah, last semester I also taught a seminar for my capstone project, which is a project that all the seniors have to do. It's a big project that kind of sums up your experience at Community Montessori, or specifically in high school. And so I taught a seminar on Shakespeare and his works. This is one of my students, actually. There were 7 of them. They all passed, so I'm really proud of that. Yeah. Yeah. So we focused on some acting, we focused on some analysis, but I didn't want it just to be, you read Romeo and Juliet, and that's it. Because Shakespeare wasn't meant to be read, it was meant to be acted, because a lot of people couldn't read during that time anyway, so that's what we focused on. I think I'm a little bit of an exception because a lot of people, don't want to teach a class, or they don't have time to teach a class, or whatever it is, but I found it a really rewarding experience, and I had a lot of support from my advisor in Hannigan and Danielle and everybody, so yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say. I only have 2 classes, which are like my 2 seminars. One is political science, and then the other one, what's our class called? It's group discussion. It's just a long title, and I can't remember it all. But it's yeah.
Literature and critical thinking.
That's exactly what it is, because he's also in that class. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm in 2 seminars on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoons, and then on Mondays and Wednesdays I have theater, and on Fridays I have internships, but the rest of the time I just have work cycle in the studio. That's basically it.
Alright, so I have things to say about each of those. They kind of all kind of encompass my weeks through the semester. So the way that I sectioned out my freshman and sophomore year, I kind of got a lot of the requirements out of the way. And so my past 2 semesters have been mostly experimental and just kind of a broad range of anything and everything that I may or may not be interested in. And so I only have 4 classes this semester, but they're all on Tuesday and Thursdays. So Mondays and Wednesdays I have complete work time, except for our end of day activity of Creativity Inc. And so I get to utilize that. It's really, really easy to mess up because I like to procrastinate a little. But when I use it well, it's very efficient, and it's a likable system. But then, so Tuesday mornings I have quantitative reasoning, which is our math class, and then right after that I have about a half-hour gap before I go to my Ivy Tech dual credit class, but that's here, which is public speaking, or COM 101, and that is from about 10:15 to 11:30, and then I have lunch, and then I go right into seminars. My first seminar is economics, and then I go from there to literature and critical thinking, where I enjoy those discussions and readings. And then that's my day. I have takeaway work from those that I bring back Mondays and Wednesdays or get done on the weekends. And I go from there. But with my internships, I kind of started out really easy and comforting. As a family friend of ours has run a small business, and it's one that I'd helped out with when they do shows or festivals or things like that. So I interned with them to get kind of comfortable and learn how to run a small business. And that was really interesting. And then I passed 2 semesters. So I'm in my final internship right now, which is with Randy Roman, the father of one of the students here. He's an electrician, and so I'm learning how to do that. And it's pretty interesting. It's really fun. It's a cool learning experience, bouncing around from all the different uses and potential applications and such. And then previously, something completely opposite, I interned with a blacksmith because that is something, one of my interests and one that several of my peers have had in the past. There's actually a chess table on the other side of that wall that was completely built by 2 of our students, chess pieces and all. So that was always something right outside of our studio that I just kind of like to look at, and really intriguing about like how they make things and I like the process and to break things down and how they're built. So that was really fun. And I tied that in with my capstone. So everything and anything that I built with my internship supervisor that he would let me take home, I have, and that's going to be in a display case for my capstone. So that was really cool and fun that I could tie all those stuff together.
Thank you. All right, I'm Ethan, and my day, I feel like would be more of like what this like a freshman would be, except I'm not a freshman. I'm a junior, but I don't go off campus like some of these other guys. So, my Monday. Don't laugh at me. My Monday starts off. It starts off in what we call group, which is like homeroom. And then after that, I have about an hour and a half before I go to my dual credit class, which is here, which is public speaking. And then I come back to my studio, which is Sycamore. And then I have lunch. And then after lunch, I have Algebra 2. And then after Algebra 2, I go to Creativity Inc. And that's my Monday and Wednesday. And then Tuesday and Thursday, I have the whole morning to do anything that needs to be done. And then in the afternoon, I have my seminars, which are anatomy and physiology, and then it's health and wellness is that other one. Oh, no, it's nutrition is what that one's called. And then for my Friday, for my internship, I've done 2 internships so far. Well, I'm in the middle of my second one. Both of them have been at Norton's. For my first one, I was down in the lab doing hematology stuff, and couldn't really touch anything, but I watched them do a lot of the tests, run on blood, which is cool. And then for this one, I am working with anesthesia. Again, I can't really touch anything because I'm not exactly qualified, but I get to sit in on the surgeries. I'm in the OR with the CRNAs. I got to speak with and spend a day with the actual anesthesiologist, which was really cool. And that's basically what my week looks like.
I think I can speak with this. So with our advisory meetings, we get to kind of talk each semester, or before each semester, and kind of set out how our schedule is going to look like. And so there are the requirement classes that I myself took care of as early on as I could. I kind of took as many of those because I knew that it would free up some time later so that I was be able to explore my interests. But because of this, there are requirements for each year, and so afterwards you can either you had to have some freedom with the classes afterwards of choosing what you would like to explore. And so kind of what happened is I was just looking through our list of options and happened to choose several that were already going to be later requirements or that would lead into later requirements that I would have to take care of. And so that kind of helps can build a bridge to get ahead of those?
So I know that I put a whole bunch of stuff on my plate freshman and sophomore year. Freshman year, I did humanities and the math, which is Algebra 1. And it's been a while since I've been a freshman, and we've changed a whole lot, so I'm not going to speak a whole lot about that. But my sophomore year, I took Humanities 10, which is the English and the history, the U.S. history requirement, all in one class. I took that in one semester, which you can't do anymore, but that's what I did. And then I took a dual credit a semester before I was supposed to, so that's kind of how I did that. I also a lot of the classes have more than one credit assigned to them, so I know that I can't think of a specific example, but I did, what are you thinking? It has 2 credits that meet 2 different requirements. I know the class that I taught had 2 credits and it met 2 different requirements. So that's how also you can do that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is like there's a lot of opportunity with courses being integrated to kind of, I guess, mess with your credits and find out some really interesting combinations to combine. Yes. Sure, yes. Yeah, and the same with this, and that's kind of how we define like what courses are going to be all year, what courses are going to be one semester, and if they're one semester, you know, how frequently are we meeting? What is the level of takeaway? What are our expectations of what they're going to do independently, and kind of so on and so forth.
It's not going to have all the training.
Right.
So it could be an intense journey when you've got multiple credits.
And I was going to point out on your second page in that little packet, there's a sheet called Wood's Fast Facts, and it lays out very specifically the first 2 years of high school here. So as a group of advisors, we came together and we kind of realized that first we wanted to build context for what our teens were learning, and that was going to be done through kind of requiring certain courses, because I'm going to be really honest, getting a teen to choose to take Algebra 2 is sometimes more difficult than we'd like it to be. And so it's one of those things as we then say, okay, you're taking that in this year. And it's designed in a way that they're filling in a lot of those state requirements for the Core 40 diploma in those first 2 years very purposefully, so then those last 2 years they have opportunities to explore and individualize their learning just a little bit more. And you can see on there in the common 10th level work, one of the courses is What Are You Thinking? And What Are You Thinking is a course based in adolescent developmental psychology that goes into health and wellness and now interpersonal relationships, so how to contend with other human beings and make it through life in that way, as well as all of those health aspects. Because one thing we noticed as a teen staff is when our teens were trying to do health and wellness independently, they were bored and lost and didn't really know how to engage with the course. So we kind of swooped in and helped to figure out a way to directly instruct that, but not in a quite as direct a way as what we would have gotten in traditional high school.
Well, yeah, and I think this lays it out nicely, but I did want to clarify when we say required courses that, they've knocked out the required things early. They're taking required courses the whole 4 years, but what I think you're referring to is they knocked out the required courses that are not choice early. And then the other required courses are elective. So the goal is to try to get as many of those things you have to take, like whether they're your interest or not, the state says this is what you do. We get those knocked out early so that they can get to the choice part, the individualized part, sooner than later. And so we try to get a little choice in there at the beginning, but we're pretty heavy-handed with we're getting all this stuff done out of the way so that your upper class years can be really focused on making all the parts of your world, internships, dual credit courses if that's a choice, off-campus learning, and electives. We want them all to work together in a way that's really personalized. So required stuff's happening the whole time, but the choice stuff gets to really dictate the nature of the day and the week as they get older. Here, if you want to toss it all over.
Tossing. Right.
Also with that is that with those first 2 years, you're kind of still figuring everything out with the advisors in your studio and the people you're with. But after those first few years, once you've knocked everything out, your teachers not only know you a bit better, but you know yourself hopefully a little bit better, so that they can assist you in the process of choosing those things that they feel you will be interested in or do well in. And that really helped me with a couple courses that I didn't really think I would do well in, and Casey kind of pushed them a little bit harder, and I took them, and I did really well, and they were really fun. So that's another I guess helpful added personal relationship with your advisor, that they can kind of assist you in your own growth.
And I think it's important to note that, again, we're trying to prepare them not just for a career when they get out of high school, but also how the world works, what it is to be a part of the community, whether it be part of their larger city community, whether it's a college community, whether it's a community at in their career. And so these experiences in their last 2 years are really meant to educate in that direction versus just getting the high school requirements done. So it's that combination of interest and preparing them for those real life situations and skills. Any other questions right now? Yeah. Okay. So what is studio time made up of? I'm going to start on this end first and let it work its way back to you.
Studio time is really, what's going on? Oh. Studio time is basically like just a little bit of time for you to get the work that you've been assigned done. At least that's what it is for me. And then if you get it done, you can do something else that maybe you, like a portfolio project. I don't know if we've touched on those. Ooh, awesome. Making it flow. All right. Yeah. So those are portfolio projects that we're required to get those done before we graduate, which include philanthropy, entrepreneurship, government, and wellness, as well as our capstone in our senior year. So along with our assignments that our classes give us, we have stuff like that we can also work on. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
But yeah, just adding on to Matthew, that it's like a library kind of setting, at least that's what we strive for. Just being able to, like you said, the work that you have to do for your classes, you're able to do there. You're able to, I think one of the biggest things about having our studios is we have multiple different age levels, and we have one, like our advisor, and we have a separate advisor in our studio as well. So any classes that we're doing at that time, like if you're taking a class that maybe the majority of the class is someone older than you or someone younger than you, you have the availability to go and work with somebody who may be at a different level than you are. So being able to have that, I think it's an advantage, but yeah, a resource to be able to go to, and they're a completely different age than you, a completely different level, but you still have that availability. And I think that that's one of the greatest things about having it, and about trying to just, our vocabulary for how we explain school is so different that a lot of people don't understand. Well, why would you have different age levels in your class? Well, what if you're in a class that has mostly older or younger kids? You know, you're able to kind of work with different people. Yeah. Oh, my advisory is mostly me debating with Kyle about why I should put my work off. Specifically my entrepreneurship. But, yes, debates. But advisories, one thing I think we need to share is that Your advisor and yourself are two people you need to get to know. And I say yourself as a separate being because sometimes it really does feel that way. You really don't know who you are, and I mean, you're not really expected to either, but at least you have someone that's kind of constant there that learns who you are. You've been there for years, and you can kind of get to know each other and have this sort of relationship where you understand what the other one needs. And how to communicate with each other. So advisories, we typically have a course status document that we pull up on our Chromebooks, and when we go and sit down with them, they're about 20 minutes long, we basically say what our grades are in our class, so what we have and we do does not meet, minimally meets, meets expectations, and it exceeds expectations. So those are kind of around A, B, C, and D, roughly. And we go over what we have in our courses currently, and then we talk about our priorities. And at the top of that list, we put what's due, when it's due, and what is top priority, whether it is our portfolio projects, whether it is our dual credits, whether it's just our seminars. Yeah, and we basically just try to regulate kind of what we're doing. While we do have a lot of freedom in choosing how we do things and where we spend our time, they are always a constant there to be like, all right, let's focus back in, reel it in, and figure out what we need to do. As Hannigan puts it, getting in the weeds a little bit. So just having a constant every week, you can go back and talk to them, and you have that set amount of time where you can kind of refocus your attention. What? Oh.
Like, you couldn't have asked a better question right now, so thank you for that, because as I'm listening to you all, and I've known most of you for a handful of years, if not quite a few years, and I'm listening, and I couldn't help but get my parent hat on, and what I was chiming in, and then you perfectly set up that question, is that I have 3 kiddos, as I've said, and they're all such different learners. And I'm going to say it's very humbling to be a parent here and be a staff member here, because my boys have struggled for many years in different ways and such. And so I guess I want to be real about, we don't want to paint this perfect picture that they're all these quintessential Montessorians who manage every moment of every day perfectly. They never need to be pushed in any direction. I mean, maybe you all do. Congrats if that's the case. But I think one of the most powerful things for me as a parent is to watch how the advisors meet my kids and all of the kids that we work with, where they are. And so one of my kiddos has an IEP, and he's on the autism spectrum, and he has lots and lots of challenges with self-regulation and getting started and impulse control and sensory overload and all kinds of things. He's figuring out how to be in the world and how to be successful, and they work with him in a wide variety of ways. And so his advisories and his daily work might look like he has a Post-it giving him exactly what he needs to do next, perhaps, or he's working one-on-one with a developmental specialist. And he is empowered in that process, and they look at where are the gifts in this young person, let's work on those, while also acknowledging these are the areas that need to be built up. So he has a lot of support every day, and has the whole time he's been here. He's been here for 9 years now. And I'm astounded at his growth. And as a parent, I mean, the gratitude I have for this school, knowing what this might have looked like in a different environment, it's overwhelming. And so he has met right where he is, and he is gaining skills and independence. And we have a long way to go, but he feels great and confident, and is never made to feel like this is too much. The amount of support you need is too much. Even though I know sometimes as a parent, it might be, there are days where it's been too much. And that was all the way from 6 to 9, 9 to 12 on up. It's humbling every year. One of my other kids could never have anybody check in with him ever. He's extremely independent and does all of that. And if anything, the work that they need to do with him is pulling him out and helping him to develop collaboration, because he would introvert his way through and he would never interact with anyone. And so they work with him very differently because his needs are really different. And so we don't assume success looks one way, and we don't assume that they're all going to get there one way. It's the meeting them where they are. What does this young person need and what are their gifts? And how can we capitalize on those? So if the academics are easy, the social emotional part might be the big focus, and vice versa. You know, there are years we didn't care about academics at all with my kid because we were so worried about getting all these other skills developed. So I don't know if that's helpful, and then my youngest, you know, he's got a whole other set of challenges coming on up through the pipeline. And so humbling is an understatement, but it's incredible to see how each of these needs is tackled very differently and very individualized while maintaining the dignity of the young person. So, and we could chat more if you want to email me or talk. I've seen it all as a parent going through some of those journeys. So, yeah, questions?
I was going to say, and they end up doing the work that they don't want to do. It's not always pretty.
Right.
It's not always a straight journey, but it happens.
Right. And they're not coddled. And so Danielle is one of the people I rely on when kiddo is spinning out. It'd be a lot easier to ignore and like just kind of pass him on through. But Danielle will go toe to toe and get in there and help him he gets to the other side. And some of you have experienced, I'm sure, moments where you've needed to be pulled on through hard things to the other side. And so I'm really grateful for that dynamic. Here, let's pass it.
I'm not always I'm not always the nicest to my advisor when it comes to doing my work. I had to be nagged by my advisor, Shannon, so many times to do my PE credits. You cannot even, every single time I had my advisory, when's your PE going to be done? When's your PE going to be done? Every time, at every conference, every time. It wasn't just that. Sometimes I didn't do my math work, and Shannon would write me a list personally. Yeah, I think we can all relate to this, of all the math of all the math sections I hadn't turned in or was missing or something, and she would be like, so you're going to get this done, right? And she would help me write a schedule, and she would help me try to organize my time, because I do procrastinate. I mean, I'm doing a lot better on it this year because I only have one class, and I get bored. Honestly, I get so bored that I beg people to give me their work to do. I'm just serious. I have all of my stuff done, so I'm like, do you need me to do your Algebra 1 homework? Because I'm available right now. I don't actually do any of their work. I promise. But yeah, so it's not all, I did all my work today, Shannon, look at me. I didn't do my PE until this summer, like last summer, and it was supposed to be done my junior year. But yeah, we're not all, we try to look like we know what we're doing, but we mostly don't know what we're doing most of the time.
Speaking more on the PE2 specifically. So, I myself do not like to sit down at a desk for long periods of time without getting up and taking a walk, or as we have our multi-purpose activity center, our MAC, I will utilize that space at every opportunity possible. And this is what has baffled my teacher, is that the fact that since the beginning of last year, probably, I've had every requirement fulfilled for my PE2, and yet it's still pulled up and saved on my computer untouched. And so I have it all on my phone. I just have to transfer it. And every time we meet, he's like, how is this still a thing that we need to discuss? And I'm like, it's really not. I'm just really lazy. I'm getting there. It's happening so slowly, but it's happening. Yeah, that's really all it is. But it's funny. It's a good experience. It's not all as simple as you said.
I think it kind of just comes down to, like, we have a lot of differences than traditional schools. We have a lot of different ways of learning and teaching and absorbing information, and also still reminding ourselves that we are teenagers and we do procrastinate frequently on my end. Yeah, we're all on the same page here. But we are still teenagers, and there are still points when, while we don't look at everyone in the school as lesser or higher than us, we're all on the same page. And I think that was one of the biggest things, because I came to this school freshman year. So I had gone to a traditional school, Silver Creek, which is completely different environment, all through, I think it was kindergarten, all the way up until I got here and was like, what is going on? Something's different, because I remembered what I heard in the lecture and I don't know what's going on. So the first, yeah, I was just absorbing the information so much faster, and I didn't understand why, and I was just kind of freaking out. And I kept calling my teachers like Mr. and Mrs., and I never understood. I was like, y'all, this is weird. Like, why are we doing this? And I kept calling like Hannigan, Miss Hannigan, and kept laughing at myself about it, because Annie. But first thing Kyle said to me was, well, you have to understand that we're not higher than you. We're not lower than you. We are equals, while sometimes due to learning curves, we have little moments where we have to say, like, give you kind of like a check back, look at what's going on, look at the situation. And remembering that is always there, and no matter how irritated or lazy you want to be, that you're always going to have that person be like, dude, I'm looking at you from a third person point of view, just make sure you reevaluate what's going on. But when it comes to coming into a completely different environment, even if you grew up and you're like, well, what are we going to do? They didn't grow up in this school. Trust me, I don't even know how quickly I changed. Everything that like the way I looked at learning and education has completely changed, probably in like the first 2 months of me being here. It was incredible. And the first day I was home, and my mom was like, this is amazing, you need to go talk to your dad. And it was just, everything changed very rapidly. So understanding that it's okay that, you know, if you feel like you're a little late in the game, it is always an amazing idea to at least open your mind to the concepts and everything. It's very different, but it's every child has their own way of learning, and this is just one of the great ones.
Yes. Yeah. But I will say, while Emma over here says she caught on quickly, I did not. It took me about my entire sophomore year to catch on here fully, because the school is so different. I've been to at least 5 different schools, and it was really hard to grasp the concept here. But it was worth it, and I learned a whole lot. But I do feel like I'm prepared for college. This school, to me, the way I describe it to people, to me it feels like a little college. It does. And so I have even gone off campus to college classes at Ivy Tech, and I felt really prepared for it. And the teachers there would be like, I thought you were a college student, and I'm like, no, I'm still in high school. I'm sorry, I'm not. And so those just little comments made me realize how awesome this school is. Not to like say that traditional public schools aren't awesome, but in my opinion, this one fit best with me, even though it took me a while to get used to it.
I think a little bit more on that is like, my advisor personally pushed for, because of all the free time that I had my senior year, because of my hard work in my freshman and sophomore year, I wanted to do as many dual credits as we could to build up my portfolio, my transcript for when I headed into college. And I think even those soft skills that we've touched on and learned throughout our time here, it's really helped to, for that independence of going up to the professor
So you've got testimonial evidence, right? Firsthand accounts from learners who are currently in college and high school that demonstrates the efficacy of our methodology. But we also have data. I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarships earned. We have going on 10 years now of our graduates going through college. I just had brunch with a graduate a couple weekends ago. He's graduating U of L right now, going into law school. Had brunch last weekend with 2 graduates, both of whom got full ride scholarships to Hanover College and are about to graduate. So, I mean, any way you look at it, this program absolutely prepares our learners for college. And even if you just consider what are the skills that it takes to be successful in college, you need to, as Matthew was just saying, be able to communicate with your professors, ask important questions both in the lectures and in their office. You have to be a self-starter. You have to be a problem solver. You have to know how to manage your own time. You have to be the one who does the homework on your own without the teacher telling you how to do it, when to do it. And so even just from that vantage point, it's pretty clear to me that objectively speaking, and I went through a public high school, right? Fort Central graduate, 1999, right? And I can tell you that that experience didn't really prepare me for college in the way that this experience prepares our learners for college.
I just also want to throw in here. For one, so I started here this year, and advisories alone, they remind me of when I was in college, because it's somebody helping guide you and helping guide you to what your goals are and your dream is. And that can change in high school, but as you all were saying, you get to know your advisor well enough that they're able to help you make those changes as you go. In addition to that, we do have a lot of kids go off campus for dual credit. Most of our learners end up taking classes both off campus and here on campus. And just the other day, I had one of our on-campus professors come into my office that teaches one of our comm classes, and comes in, and he told me that he was astonished by our learners and that they were just very prepared and ready to give their speeches, and they always advocated for themselves, and he was just blown away because he goes to like all of the high schools around here and teaches comm, and our learners just really stood out to him, and he made sure to come tell me that. So I feel like you were saying, it's a mini college almost here. It feels, we're helping them get ready for those types of situations.
I also think it's important to emphasize that a lot of what we're doing here is not only preparing you for the work and the the intellectual side of college, is also just being able to communicate and handle things internally whenever you're going to college, regardless if we're here and we're pretty much in college completely like senior year. We're still it is a big step actually going to your college full time, and emotionally and mentally preparing yourself for that, and being able to have those a third person perspective moments, and being able to understand certain situations, be able to communicate. And I feel like it's life skills more than anything. I honestly, it's almost like the education is almost secondary. Being able to understand where you're going, understand what you do, and how the other people work, and how to communicate that way is like one of the biggest things that we really push for, as well as learning what you need to know just to get in. Yeah, trade school.
Okay, we also focus on things within our studio. We have studio days, which normally last they're like two. We have like two. It's like 2 days within a week not every week, it's every once in a while. And we'll focus on, our studio specifically focuses on like team building activities. We bring our community in within our studio together more. We also have things like camping trips, and other going out trips. We'll go on going out trips in some colleges. On our studio days, we might go on a going out trip to a museum or something, and there'll always be like a theme, and we'll have a reflection after our going out trips. And then, like when we have our studio days, we focus a lot on. Our studio focuses a lot on getting to know each other, learning how to work with each other. Kyle also prepares Socratic discussions for us sometimes. Yeah, it's all very interesting. I really love it.
I'm just going to talk about Cypress just a little bit. So we have, previously we've done things like interest presentations where the morning we'll spend the day, we'll pick a topic of your specific interest, and then at the end of the day everyone will present those. And it's just kind of a time for people to have fun with the project or even just inform people of one of their interests. But I'd also like to talk about the fact that we are in school on MLK Day, and so our woods, all of our woods went to the Muhammad Ali Center this year, and then afterwards we went to see a performance by the AATP, and then that was our whole school day, and we just believe more in being here and actually learning about it and the effects of all of those events and how they've led us to where we are now rather than simply getting a day off. And I think that can also be applied to snow days. So we don't have to make up our snow days because when we have a snow day, we get emails from our advisors going over things that we've talked about from our previous advisory meetings of things we need to work on or things we can, and we email them back saying that we're going to work on this, this, and this. And that gives us an excused absence for the day, therefore nobody has to come in and make up snow days. Those are a couple benefits.
Just going off of what he said with, like when we were here for MLK Day and we went to the Muhammad Ali Center, just taking on those kinds of experiences, it reminded me of what Sycamore does for our studio days. So coming up, we are going to St. Louis, actually, and we are going to go to the zoo there, and then we're going to go to the City Museum. But it also reminded me of the camping trips that we have here. Specifically, Primitive was the one that I went on this year, which is basically you just go out in the middle of the Red River Gorge with your backpack, maybe a tent, and you stay out there. You cook your own food over a fire, and you get pretty much
You get your rations the first day. What you do with them after that is completely up to you.
What you do with your time is completely up to you as well. And there's a bunch of other camping trips that are designed for maybe people who don't want to go out and rough it in the wilderness.
I think I'm the only one out of this group that did not go on the Primitive. Is that right? Yeah, okay. I went on the exact opposite of Primitive. I went on the Urban Arts trip, which means we sleep in a church in downtown New Albany with air conditioning and clean water and not rations. We just get food, like just food. And we focus more on, sometimes I've been on it all 4 years because I enjoy it so much. We do a cabaret, so we get to perform poetry or songs or little skits or kind of whatever we want. And then 1 year we focused on architecture of downtown New Albany. Most of it was gone because they like to tear down old buildings apparently. And we kind of do something like that, so we don't focus on the survival part of it because we have air mattresses. But we focus on the performance side, but we focus on the urban arts side of it. And the visual arts, yeah. Yeah, we also do a little bit of that. Oh, yes. Questions?
I think that's fair. That was my experience, and I was on the tough side. I remember asking a question in my senior English class when there was a presentation on college options and all that, and I asked, well, what about those of us who don't want to go to college? And at the time, I was convinced I would never go back to school. After I graduated high school, I was so alienated, and here I am, a lifelong high school student. But that so irritated it was our assistant principal. He took me out in the hall and he said, "If you're such a nonconformist, why don't you just drop out?" Right? And it was a legitimate question. I genuinely wanted to know, because I didn't want to go to college. What options do I have? And there were none. You couldn't even ask the question, right? And I think there's also a false sense of security that, look, if you go to 7 classes a day and you sit and you have all these contact hours, they all add up to a lot of learning, right? No. I slept every day in my world history class. Every day. So there's a real false sense of security, I think, that so there's that, right? Like, you have to go to all these classes to learn something. And then also the idea that if you give teens the opportunity to explore their own interest and use open-ended work cycles, they're going to blow it and abuse it. And I think we have to give adolescents more credit than that. They will rise to the occasion, or they will meet the low bar, right? And I think once and this is the word that Barbara used, valorization, right? It's sort of the optimum outcome of an adolescent experience is the feeling that I matter. As an individual human being, I matter, and I have something to contribute. It might not look like my going to college right out of high school, valedictorian friend, but I have a gift. I have something I can contribute to the world. And our goal in this program is to help each individual find, what is that? How can you become valorized? How can you become dignified and know that you have something that matters and something that's important and something to contribute? So that's a long-winded way of saying yes. It's accurate.
Our exhibitions, they're like big presentation jubilees where we all come together and we yeah, but every grade level usually has one, but ours are, we set up the MAC and we usually have like a big kind of entertainment type of situation. And we have each project like set up, and we after school have as many parents as family members as we can come in and learn a little bit more about what we're working on and what we're looking into. Yeah. Oh, that's primitive.
I know we've got like a moment, but I guess I would encourage you to go home and process and think and follow up with us. You can find us up here frolicking. Now that you're not as lost, maybe you have a little bit of map guidance for what's going on in the woods. Come see us. We're friendly. Email us. and keep the dialogue going or keep the questions coming, because we can't wait to meet your learners if they're at younger levels. And if they're already up here with us, we can't wait to keep watching them grow and become the next leaders as they're progressing through. But we do have multiple exhibition opportunities to come up and see what the kids are doing in action, including next week, so a week from now, Thursday, we're having our first Woodsy Coffee House. That's the title. But what that means is basically it's a meeting of the minds. We've got a group of learners who are doing culinary arts. They want to make some food, so what else might we do? We have a group of learners who are our mini barista team. They have regular Pride cafes that raise money each month to donate funds to LGBT-focused organizations to help out their peers and such. And they'll be there serving fantastic coffee. I look forward to it every time. And then, we also have learners who want to share spoken word. And we have a house band now going that's been developing in the Woods program this year. So you can come, you can hear some maybe Nirvana and have coffee and hear poetry and eat food all in one night. So come see us next Thursday. And it's free. Bring money to buy, the goods and such, but entrance is, Nirvana is free. So come on in. We'll also have later in the semester the Creativity Inc. Spring Exhibition, which will also incorporate the Woods production of The Sound of Music, which actually, if you know anything about The Sound of Music, I know it's an obscure show many have never heard of, but there are a couple of learners from other age levels in there as well, so that's been an interesting collaboration. And that's going to be a lot of fun, and some of these folks are involved in that. And along with The Sound of Music, you'll see visual arts, exhibition components, culinary arts, and literary arts. And then we'll have the Big History exhibition, the Big History Jubilee in May, after Creativity Inc., which will showcase learning in every discipline, I guess might be the best way to, humanities, sciences, and capstones all pulled together in this beautiful jubilee. So come back, stay engaged, look at those emails you get that say all the things that are going on. Now you've got a little context, so come on out and see what they're doing up here. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much for coming.